You're not stuck because of your circumstances, your background, or your resources. You're stuck because you've become addicted to the drug of predictability. Comfort zones are more addictive than any substance because they promise safety while slowly destroying your capacity for greatness. Every time you choose the familiar path over the challenging one, you're injecting yourself with another dose of limitation, another hit of smallness, another fix of mediocrity. The withdrawal symptoms of leaving your comfort zone feel unbearable, but the side effects of staying in it are far worse. Wasted potential, unrealized dreams, and the slow death of everything that makes you unique. Your dealer is your own mind. Your drug is false security. And your recovery requires you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Your comfort zone is not your friend. It's a beautifully decorated prison cell that you've built around yourself, complete with familiar furniture, predictable routines, and the illusion of safety. While you're sitting comfortably inside, life is happening outside those walls. Opportunities are passing by your window, and your potential is slowly suffocating from lack of oxygen. Most people spend their entire lives as prisoners of their own making, never realizing that they hold the key to their freedom. Angela thought she had it all figured out. For 15 years, she worked at the same small architectural firm, designing residential homes and small commercial buildings. The work was predictable, the clients were familiar, and her paycheck arrived like clockwork every 2 weeks. She knew every corner of that office, every quirk of her colleagues, and every shortcut to complete her projects efficiently. When larger firms tried to recruit her with promises of bigger projects, international assignments, and double her salary, Angela politely declined. "I'm happy where I am," she would say, with a smile that masked her fear. Why fix something that isn't broken? But something was broken, and Angela didn't see it until it was almost too late. While she was designing her 50th suburban house, her former classmates were creating skyscrapers that changed city skylines. While she was comfortable with her small projects, younger architects with half her experience were being promoted to senior positions at major firms because they had taken risks she was too afraid to take. While she was preserving her comfort, she was sacrificing her growth, her potential, and ultimately her relevance in an industry that rewards innovation and courage. The wake-up call came during her 20-year college reunion. As Angela listened to her classmates share stories of international projects, award-winning designs, and career breakthroughs, she realized that her comfort zone hadn't protected her from failure. It had guaranteed her mediocrity. She had been so afraid of falling that she never learned to fly. Her comfort zone, which she thought was keeping her safe, had actually been slowly killing her dreams, one comfortable day at a time. Your comfort zone operates like a sophisticated drug dealer, offering you small doses of pleasure and predictability while slowly destroying your capacity for greatness. It whispers sweet lies in your ear. Stay here where it's safe. Don't risk what you have for what you might not get. Better to be satisfied with what you know than disappointed by what you don't know. These whispers sound reasonable, even wise. But they're actually the voice of your unrealized potential begging you not to abandon it completely. Understanding the psychology of comfort zones reveals why they're so powerfully addictive. Your brain is designed to conserve energy and avoid pain, which means it naturally gravitates toward familiar patterns and known outcomes. Every time you choose the comfortable path over the challenging one, you reinforce neural pathways that make future comfortable choices even more automatic. Your brain literally rewires itself to prefer the known over the unknown, the easy over the difficult, the safe over the spectacular. This biological programming served our ancestors well when survival was the primary concern, staying close to familiar territory, avoiding unnecessary risks, and conserving energy were strategies that kept humans alive. But in today's world, these same survival instincts that once protected us now imprison us. The very mechanisms designed to keep you alive are now keeping you from truly living. Your comfort zone has boundaries that extend far beyond your physical location. It encompasses your thoughts, your beliefs, your relationships, your income level, your health habits, and your definition of what's possible for your life. Every time you think, I could never do that, or that's not for someone like me, you're policing the borders of your comfort zone, making sure nothing and no one threatens the false sense of security you've created. The most dangerous aspect of comfort zones is their progressive nature. They don't maintain their current size, they shrink. What feels comfortable today will feel necessary tomorrow and insufficient the day after. The skills that once made you valuable become outdated. The relationships that once energized you become stagnant. The goals that once excited you become routine. If you're not growing, you're dying. And comfort zones are where growth goes to die. Angela's story has a turning point that illustrates the power of recognizing your prison before it's too late. At that reunion, instead of making more excuses, she made a decision that changed everything. She walked up to the most successful architect in the room, someone whose work she had admired from a distance for years, and asked a simple question. What's the one thing you would tell someone who's been playing it safe for too long? His answer was brutally honest. Stop waiting for permission to live up to your potential. The world doesn't need another person who's really good at being comfortable. That conversation led Angela to submit her resignation the following Monday, within 6 months. She had joined an international firm working on projects she had only dreamed about. Within 2 years, she was leading design teams on projects that challenged everything she thought she knew about architecture. Within 5 years, she had opened her own firm specializing in sustainable urban development, work that combined her technical skills with her newfound courage to think beyond conventional limitations. The woman who once turned down opportunities because they felt too risky was now creating opportunities for others because she understood that the biggest risk is not taking any risks at all. Angela discovered that her comfort zone hadn't been protecting her talents. It had been preventing her from discovering talents she never knew she had. Your comfort zone is not neutral territory. It's not a place where you can pause while you figure out your next move. It's an active force working against your best interests, convincing you that small dreams are practical, that modest goals are realistic, and that settling for less is wisdom. But your potential refuses to accept these limitations, which is why you feel restless when you're not growing, why you feel empty when you're not challenged, and why you feel guilty when you know you're capable of more, but choosing to deliver less. The time has come to stop trusting your comfort zone and start trusting your capacity for growth. The price of staying comfortable is always higher than the cost of growth. But most people never calculate what their safety is actually costing them until it's too late to recover what they've lost. Benjamin learned this lesson in the most painful way possible. For 23 years, he worked the same machine in the same factory, perfecting his routine until he could operate his equipment blindfolded. His supervisor offered him promotions 7 different times, opportunities to move into management, to learn new technologies, to train other workers, to join project teams that would expand his skills and increase his income. Each time, Benjamin politely declined with the same reasoning. I'm good at what I do. I know this job inside and out. And change is risky when you have a family to support. Benjamin's comfort zone felt like wisdom. He had job security, predictable hours, and the confidence that comes from mastery, while his colleagues stressed about learning new systems, adapting to changing procedures, and taking on additional responsibilities. Benjamin enjoyed the peace of mind that comes from knowing exactly what each day would bring. He watched some of his co-workers fail in their new roles, saw others struggle with increased pressure, and felt validated in his choice to stay where he was safe and competent. But comfort zones charge compound interest on the security they provide. While Benjamin was preserving his position, the world was changing around him. Younger workers joined the company with technical skills he didn't possess. Automation began replacing manual processes he had spent decades perfecting. The industry evolved toward digital systems while Benjamin remained an expert in obsolete methods. His choice to avoid the discomfort of learning and growing had gradually transformed him from a valuable employee into a liability. The devastating moment came during his 24th year when the company announced restructuring. Benjamin's department was being modernized. His position was being eliminated, and the only remaining jobs required skills he had spent 2 decades avoiding. At 51 years old, he found himself competing with workers half his age who possessed the technical knowledge and adaptability that 23 years of comfort had cost him. The security he thought he was building had actually been eroding beneath his feet, one comfortable day at a time. The hidden costs of comfort zones extend far beyond career implications. They affect every dimension of your existence in ways you may not recognize until the damage is irreversible. Your relationships suffer when you're too comfortable to have difficult conversations, address growing problems, or invest the energy required for deeper connection. Your health deteriorates when you're too comfortable with convenient foods, sedentary habits, and avoiding the discomfort of discipline. Your finances stagnate when you're too comfortable with your current income to develop new skills, pursue additional opportunities, or make investments that require short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. Most tragically, your sense of purpose atrophies when you're too comfortable to pursue work that matters, too comfortable to stand for principles that might be unpopular, too comfortable to use your unique gifts in ways that might require courage. You begin to define yourself by what you avoid rather than what you accomplish, by what you preserve rather than what you create, by what you protect rather than what you contribute. Benjamin's story illustrates the compound effect of comfortable choices over time. Each individual decision to stay safe seemed reasonable, even prudent. Declining one promotion to avoid stress appeared wise. Avoiding new technology to prevent learning difficulties seemed practical. Choosing familiar routines over challenging assignments felt responsible. But the cumulative impact of these choices created a trajectory that led away from growth, opportunity, and relevance. The opportunity cost principle reveals the most devastating aspect of comfort zone thinking. Every moment you spend preserving what you have is a moment you're not investing in what you could have. Every energy unit you allocate to maintaining your current position is energy unavailable for expanding your future possibilities. Every mental resource you dedicate to justifying why you shouldn't take risks is a resource that could be solving problems, creating value, and building the life you actually want. Comfort zones create a scarcity mindset that convinces you that resources are limited, opportunities are rare, and competition is dangerous. This mindset transforms abundance into perceived shortage, possibility into perceived threat, and growth into perceived risk. You begin to hoard what you have instead of multiplying what you could have. You protect small gains instead of pursuing large ones. You defend tiny territories instead of conquering vast new worlds. The most insidious aspect of comfort zone costs is how they compound over time without immediate consequence. Unlike financial debt that demands monthly payments, comfort zone debt accumulates silently, charging interest on your unrealized potential. The skills you don't develop today won't be available when you need them tomorrow. The relationships you don't build now won't be there when you require support later. The risks you don't take this year become regrets you carry for decades. Benjamin eventually found new employment, but at a significant reduction in pay and responsibility. The 23 years he had invested in staying comfortable had prepared him for a world that no longer existed, while simultaneously preventing him from preparing for the world that was emerging. His comfort zone had promised security, but delivered obsolescence. It had offered protection, but provided vulnerability. It had guaranteed safety, but ensured irrelevance. Your comfort zone operates like a loan shark, offering immediate relief from discomfort while charging devastating long-term interest on your potential. The payment comes due not all at once, but gradually. As opportunities pass you by, as skills become outdated, as relationships stagnate, as dreams fade, and as the gap between who you are and who you could become grows wider each year, the question isn't whether you can afford to leave your comfort zone. The question is whether you can afford to stay in it. Every day you remain comfortable is another day of compound interest accruing on the life you're not living, the impact you're not making, and the person you're not becoming. The cost of growth is temporary, but the cost of stagnation is permanent. Your future self is counting on you to make the investment that growth requires. Even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Life begins where your comfort zone ends. And Patricia discovered this truth in a way that transformed not only her own existence, but the lives of thousands of people she would eventually inspire. 28 years old, working as a third-grade teacher in a small rural school. Patricia was so shy that she ate lunch alone in her classroom every day to avoid conversations with her colleagues. The thought of speaking in front of adults made her physically ill. Yet she was comfortable with her 8-year-old students who accepted her quiet nature without judgment. When the principal asked her to present at a teachers' conference, Patricia's immediate response was panic, followed by a polite but firm refusal. But something unusual happened that day. Instead of simply declining and retreating to her comfortable routine, Patricia found herself asking a question that would change everything. What if my fear is keeping me from helping people who need what I have to offer? She had developed innovative teaching methods that dramatically improved her students' reading comprehension. Techniques that could benefit children everywhere, but her comfort zone was preventing her from sharing these discoveries with other educators. Patricia made a decision that felt absolutely terrifying. She would accept the speaking engagement and use her fear as fuel rather than as an excuse. The presentation was a disaster by conventional standards. Her voice shook, her hands trembled, and she stumbled over words she had practiced 100 times. But something remarkable happened during those 20 minutes of pure discomfort. Patricia realized that her message was more important than her fear, that her contribution mattered more than her comfort, and that growth required her to prioritize purpose over personal preference. That disastrous first presentation led to a second opportunity, which led to a third, and then a fourth. Each time, Patricia felt the same fear, but each time, she felt slightly more capable of handling it. Her brain was literally rewiring itself, creating new neural pathways that associated challenge with growth rather than threat with danger. The neurological changes that occur when you consistently push beyond your comfort zone are profound and permanent. Your brain begins to interpret discomfort as a signal for expansion rather than a warning to retreat. Within 3 years, Patricia was speaking at national education conferences. Within 5 years, she had written a book about innovative teaching methods that became required reading in teacher training programs. Within 7 years, she was traveling internationally, training educators in developing countries, and discovering that her greatest fear had become her greatest strength. The woman who once hid in her classroom during lunch breaks was now standing on stages in front of thousands of people, not because she had eliminated her fear, but because she had learned to dance with it. The growth zone operates on principles that are completely opposite to comfort zone physics. In your comfort zone, energy is conserved, risks are avoided, and change is resisted. In the growth zone, energy is invested. Risks are calculated opportunities. And change is the pathway to becoming who you're meant to be. While comfort zones contract your world, growth zones expand your universe of possibilities in ways you cannot predict or control. Patricia's transformation illustrates the exponential nature of growth zone living. Each uncomfortable action creates compound returns that extend far beyond the immediate situation. Learning to speak publicly didn't just make her a better presenter, it developed her confidence, expanded her network, increased her income, enhanced her influence, and most importantly, allowed her to impact lives in ways that would have been impossible from the safety of her classroom comfort zone. The neurological research on challenge and growth reveals why discomfort is essential for human development. When you engage in activities that require you to stretch beyond your current capabilities, your brain forms new neural connections, increases cognitive flexibility, and literally grows new tissue. Comfort, by contrast, allows existing neural pathways to atrophy while preventing the formation of new ones. Your brain, like your muscles, grows stronger under stress and weaker under comfort. Successful people understand this principle intuitively. They deliberately seek situations that challenge their current skill level, push their emotional boundaries, and require them to become more than they currently are. They treat discomfort as information rather than intimidation, as feedback rather than failure, as invitation rather than threat. While others avoid uncertainty, growth-oriented individuals pursue it because they understand that uncertainty is where possibility lives. The compound interest of consistent growth moves creates momentum that becomes unstoppable over time. Patricia's first uncomfortable speaking engagement led to improved communication skills. Better communication led to increased professional opportunities. Professional growth led to expanded income potential. Financial improvement led to greater lifestyle choices. Enhanced lifestyle enabled her to take bigger risks and pursue larger dreams. Each growth move multiplied the returns of previous growth moves, creating an upward spiral that transformed every aspect of her life. Your growth zone is not a destination you reach, but a way of living you choose. It's the decision to say yes when your instinct is to say no, to lean in when your tendency is to pull back, to try when your history is to avoid. It's the recognition that your current abilities are not your permanent limitations, that your present circumstances are not your final destination, and that your past performance is not your future potential. The woman who now speaks to audiences of 20,000 people still feels nervous before every presentation, but she has learned that nervousness and excitement produce identical physiological responses. The difference is in the story you tell yourself about what those sensations mean. Patricia chose to interpret her racing heart as anticipation rather than anxiety, her sweaty palms as preparation rather than panic, the butterflies as readiness rather than retreat. Your growth zone is calling you right now. It's in that opportunity you're considering but haven't pursued, that conversation you need to have but keep postponing, that skill you want to develop but consider too difficult, that dream you carry but consider too ambitious. Your growth zone is anywhere you would go if fear wasn't part of the equation. Anything you would attempt if failure wasn't possible. Anyone you would become if comfort wasn't seductive. The life you want is living in your growth zone, waiting for you to be brave enough to claim it at 45 years old. Thomas had built what everyone considered a successful life. Senior vice president at a Fortune 500 company, suburban home with a 3-car garage, kids in private school, and a retirement account that promised financial security. But every morning when he looked in the mirror, Thomas saw a man who had traded his dreams for a steady paycheck, his passion for predictability, and his purpose for a pension plan. The business idea that had been burning in his mind for 8 years was still just an idea, safely tucked away in a notebook that he only opened when no one was watching. The breaking point came during a company restructuring meeting where Thomas watched younger, less experienced executives present ideas that he had been developing privately for years. As he sat in that conference room, listening to his own concepts being discussed by people who had the courage to voice them, Thomas realized that his comfort zone wasn't protecting his security, it was stealing his significance. He had become so good at playing it safe that he had forgotten how to play to win. That night, Thomas made a decision that terrified and exhilarated him in equal measure. He would leave his corporate position within 12 months and launch the consulting business that had been haunting his dreams. But Thomas was strategic about his escape from comfort. He didn't quit impulsively or dramatically. Instead, he created a systematic approach to expanding his comfort zone that would prepare him for the entrepreneurial challenges ahead. Thomas began with what he called daily discomfort doses, small actions that pushed him slightly beyond his comfort zone every single day. He started networking events where he knew no one, initiated conversations with strangers, pitched ideas to colleagues he had never approached before, and volunteered for projects outside his expertise. Each uncomfortable action was like a vaccine against fear, building his immunity to the discomfort that entrepreneurship would require. These daily practices produced remarkable changes in Thomas's psychology and capabilities. His confidence grew not from success, but from surviving discomfort. His communication skills improved not from training, but from regular practice in uncomfortable situations. His creativity expanded not from inspiration, but from constant exposure to new perspectives and challenges. Most importantly, his relationship with fear transformed from avoidance to acceptance to partnership. Thomas discovered that fear is not the opposite of courage. Comfort is the opposite of courage. Fear can actually fuel brave action when you learn to interpret it correctly. The same physiological response that comfort seekers avoid is the very energy that risk takers use to perform at their highest level. Fear indicates that you're approaching something important, something that matters, something that could change your life. Comfort, by contrast, signals that you're maintaining status quo, preserving mediocrity, and avoiding growth. 6 months into his preparation, Thomas implemented accountability systems that made regression to comfort nearly impossible. He told his family about his plans, creating social pressure to follow through. He began building his business while still employed, making investments that would be wasted if he retreated. He started developing client relationships that would expect him to deliver on his promises. He created what he called bridges burned behind him, commitments that made comfortable retreat more difficult than uncomfortable progress. The most crucial mindset shift Thomas made was reframing discomfort from enemy to ally. Instead of viewing challenges as problems to avoid, he began seeing them as opportunities to grow. Instead of interpreting setbacks as signs to quit, he started recognizing them as feedback to improve. Instead of considering fear as a warning to stop, he began treating it as an indicator that he was moving in the right direction. Thomas left his corporate job exactly 12 months after making his decision. But the man who walked out of that office building was completely different from the man who had been hiding his dreams for 8 years. His systematic approach to comfort zone expansion had prepared him not just for entrepreneurship, but for a completely different way of living. He had learned to make discomfort his friend, uncertainty his companion, and growth his primary objective. The first year of Thomas's business was exactly as difficult as he had expected and completely different from what he had imagined. Revenue was inconsistent, clients were demanding, and the learning curve was steep. But Thomas had developed the psychological muscles necessary to handle these challenges. Every setback became a lesson, every obstacle became a stepping stone, every problem became an opportunity to demonstrate his problem-solving abilities to himself and his clients. 3 years later, Thomas's consulting firm was generating more revenue than his corporate salary had ever provided. 5 years later, he was employing 12 people and working with clients across multiple industries. 7 years later, he was speaking at conferences about entrepreneurship and business development, sharing the very expertise that had been locked away in his comfort zone for so long. Your future self is counting on the decisions you make today about comfort and growth. Every time you choose the safe path over the significant path, you're voting for the person you are instead of the person you could become. Every time you prioritize comfort over contribution, you're telling your potential that it's not worth the effort required to realize it. Every time you select predictable over possible, you're building a life that fits your current limitations instead of expanding to meet your ultimate capabilities. The person you're meant to become exists beyond your current comfort zone. That person has skills you haven't developed yet, confidence you haven't built yet, experiences you haven't gained yet, an impact you haven't made yet. But that person is real. That person is waiting. And that person is depending on you to stop trusting your comfort zone and start trusting your capacity for growth. Your comfort zone will never prepare you for the life you actually want to live. It will only prepare you for the life you're already living. If you want different results, you need different behaviors. If you want extraordinary outcomes, you need to embrace extraordinary discomfort. If you want to become the person you dream of being, you need to stop being the person you've always been. The time for comfortable living is over. The time for courageous living has begun. Your dreams are not waiting for perfect conditions. They're waiting for committed action. Your potential is not waiting for ideal circumstances. It's waiting for intentional choices. Your future is not waiting for convenient timing. It's waiting for you to stop trusting your comfort zone and start building the life that exists beyond its boundaries. The question is not whether you're ready for what's beyond your comfort zone. The question is whether your comfort zone is ready to lose you to the magnificent life that's waiting for your arrival. Stop trusting your comfort zone. Start trusting your power to grow beyond it. Your breakthrough is one uncomfortable decision away.